thank you for those who have joined. So today we're going to talk about, how we can evaluate your next Dynamics 365 ERP project with Mint Group and with the use of our tool Proactive. From an agenda point of view, just going to do some quick intros to myself and Amar. We're going to talk about Proactive, Qualify and Discover. I'm going to give you a really short whistle-stop tour about Mint. It's always good to know who we are and what we do as a partner, because if there's anything that, falls outside of Proactive that you're looking to look into, then obviously you can get in touch and we can talk to you about that. I'll give you a quick short demo on the tool itself, and then Amar's going to talk to you about some of the success stories that we've had with some of the existing customers that we've run Proactive with. Cool. So I'm Paris Vardia. I'm head of sales here for UK. I've been in the Dynamics industry for just over 15 years now. I've kind of been full cycle within the industry. So I've been a consultant on AX, account manager and new business sales for both finance and supply chain and Business Central, or NAV, but we used to be called. And now obviously working on in essence, growing the revenue within the UK and building our use cases and customers on Dynamics for Mint. Amar?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Amar, head of solutions here at Mint. I've been in the Dynamics space, implementing back when it was AX through to D365 for over 10 years now. Heavy experience across sort of manufacturing and professional services. And my focus here at Mint is heading up the consultancy team.
Cool. Cheers, Amar. So just to give you an overview of Mint. So Mint are a global SI, and we sell, implement, deliver across the globe around UK, UAE, Africa, South Africa, Australia, and USA. Primarily, our focus in the UK is finance and supply chain, but we can handle the full ERP stack, as it shows in this slide, across our customers. So we do CRM, ERP, Power Platform, Azure, AI, Managed Service, Microsoft 365, and we are a cloud services provider. So we are able to sell Microsoft licenses direct to our customers. And we are one of the few partners that actually can, have this accolade where we can say we actually sell, support and service the full Microsoft stack. And whether it's been handled by our UK team or our South African team, whatever you need, we can fulfill it, as long as it's by Microsoft, of course. Just to give you a bit of confidence, we are part of the inner circle of Microsoft. For those who don't know, inner circle consists of the top 1% of partners globally. And what does that mean for you guys? So we have early access to the technical conferences that we send the likes of Amar to, where we have a say of what gets pushed out into the latest features of Dynamics. We get early release, so we know what's happening, what's coming out in the market. But we have, exec sponsorship through some of the senior people within the Microsoft organization, where we can escalate, and we have, regular meetings to understand what we're doing as a partner and what Microsoft are doing as a software vendor, so that we are aligned as to our strategies in the market. And again, just providing a bit more confidence. So you all probably would have heard of the old gold certifications and gold accredited partners. So that's been replaced by solution designations. And in essence, it's basically having our consultants certified and up to speed on the latest and greatest of Microsoft, to allow us to obtain a designation. And those designations you don't just get them for the year. It's a monthly thing. So if we have people that leave or haven't completed the latest certifications, then we would drop a designation. And again, I think one of the stats that was thrown at me when we first got all 6, but we were 0.16% of partners globally to achieve this. So we were basically one of the first partners in the world to achieve all 6. And then when you get all 6, you get the Microsoft Cloud designation as well. So really proud achievement for us. And, we are working hard to make sure that we maintain these designations throughout. So right to the stuff that you all attended for. So the Proactive, Qualify and Discover. So there's actually 3 tools within our Proactive solution set. One is Qualify, the other is Discover, and then the one that follows on from is Transform. But today we're just going to primarily focus on Discover, but I want to kind of give you a touch point on Qualify. So Qualify is in essence an online survey, but you go on our website that you fill in to get an understanding of what a project may cost. And typically why we've done this is, customers might not be in the market to talk to salespeople, talk to partners, and really just want to kind of get a ballpark figure of what an implementation will look like for Dynamics, for example, and how many users they have, what industry they're in, the scale of their operations. And these kind of questions are asked on the Qualify survey tool, which you'll have a link for at the end of the presentation, and we'll follow up with some call to actions of whether or not you want to run that. But today we're going to focus on Proactive Discover, and in essence that is more of a comprehensive survey tool where we're asking loads of requirements and questions, understanding that in a Moscow rating, and we'll go into that, and hopefully you'll see that in this presentation. So I thought I'd start off with some of the business problems we face during a solution selection, right? As we know, gathering information can take an incredibly long time. I've been doing this for 15 years and it's the bane of my life, arranging meetings, getting people on site, getting senior stakeholders, getting people from finance, getting people from manufacturing, all in one room, all different sessions, allocating the requirements, writing them down on notepads, writing them down on laptops, and it's not controlled with these ad hoc sessions and brainstorming sessions. And obviously, as I mentioned, each consultant has their own way of capturing requirements as well. So, this tool now captures it in one place and allows customers and clients to fill it in their own time. And then you can actually allocate different sections of the survey. So for example, finance, you can allocate that to your finance SME. If it's manufacturing, you can allocate it to your manufacturing SME. And they can do that in their own time. And we can monitor the progress of that survey. And in essence, what we're trying to achieve here is shortening that sales life cycle down. And not only does that help us, of course, because we get, let's call it a deal signed over quicker than we normally anticipate, but also gets clients return on investment quicker. So, usually you anticipate, right, it's going to take us 6 to 9 months to choose a partner, understand what solution we're going to use, get demos and all that sort of stuff. But right now we can actually condense that down into, a couple of weeks. Where again, Amar will show you what we've done with a client where they anticipated the process was going to take I think around 9 to 12 months, and then we engaged with them. We kind of hijacked the RF pre-process, if you want to call it that, and we in essence condensed that down into 3 months from 9 to 12, because obviously there was a lot more stuff that we did on top. And the problem they had was they budgeted the project for the following year. So now the battle that they're facing is, well, actually, we've made our mind up. We know what solution we're going to go for. They're making a choice on partner very soon, and they want to start, in this budget year. So nice problem to have because they want to start sooner. But, obviously, we all have different problems that we face. And I guess what we're trying to answer from a customer point of view, as you read these questions, you'll see that you probably will ask all these questions. And I know for a fact when I'm engaged with a customer, they will ask each and every one of these questions. The main two, how much will it cost and how long will it take? Typically, I'll go in and go, right, tell me a bit about my business, and I give a kind of a ballpark. But what I found, and I'm sure if there's any other sales people on the call, is as soon as you give a number, that number sticks in a client's head, and it's very difficult to kind of move and navigate around that number. So what we try and do now is, a bit more educated into how we estimate and how long a project will take. And this is what the tool is meant to be use for. So we capture your requirements. We have a consultancy layer that sits on top, which again, Amar will talk about what we do from your as-is to your to-be processes. And then we have a project governance layer that works with our internal team and your requirements and some of your team to understand what that full project implementation looks like. Because remember, when we look at your requirements, we could position an MVP, a minimum viable product implementation. We can issue a big bang. We can do a core implementation where it's MVP plus a little bit more. And then you look at implementing other parts of functionality later down the line. Those sort of things the tool doesn't do. We can do it, but we believe that the consultancy layer on top would help around that. So again, I'm just going to goes around. It's typically to fill in the survey, it's around about 8 to 16 hours of commitment from your side. Again, that's consumed hours. So I'm not saying you do that in 2 days, but typically on average it takes the customer around about 2 weeks of elapsed time, right? So, we're doing a 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there over a 2 week period, and that should be done. And then what we do on top of that is we analyze the requirements, and we'll go through those steps of what we do as part of that later down the presentation. And then what do you get as an output? So it's comprehensive BI dashboard, so we can slice and dice based on your must-have, you could have, you should have requirements. We can understand what percentage of fit that is against Dynamics. And what we can also do as well, because I know this question gets asked quite often, is Business Central or Finance and Supply Chain the right solution for me? And this solution, as in the proactive solution, allows us to determine which one is a better fit with your business, because obviously there's a massive cost difference between the two from a license perspective and also an implementation perspective. And this tool will actually basically analyze to say, right, actually based on your must-have requirements, 98% of those are a fit against Business Central. And whilst that might be the case for finance and supply chain as well, typically, why would you make the investment into finance and supply chain when you know that Business Central can handle the majority of your requirements? So it's really powerful stuff that comes out of it. And then license estimation, for those who know Microsoft licenses is probably one of the most complex license structures you can get. But this kind of simplifies that in a way where we go through a wizard with you. So we ask you about how many users you envisage using the system, what their roles are, what the responsibilities are, what they're going to be doing in the system. And then it maps it out to the Dynamics licensing guide and allows us to put a licensing estimate based on the latest Microsoft pricing. So again, really powerful stuff. And typically the traditional way of doing all this without the tool would have taken us, weeks and weeks and weeks to analyze that information. So again, just speeds up the process. And then a good incentive is Microsoft actually are providing funding for this exercise. That you need to be eligible, and if you are interested, we can work out whether or not you're eligible to get funding, and you can get up to £20,000, and typically that is what it costs to run this engagement. So in essence, you could end up spending nothing to do this engagement. So it's a really powerful tool. You're getting a lot of value out of it, and again, it could be free if you're eligible for Microsoft funding. So absolutely, if you want to do this and you want to find out more about this, then please do reach out. I'm going to hand over to Amma, and then what I'll do is if you have time at the end, I will show the tool, but I'll hand over to Amma for now, and then we'll go from there. Amma, on to you.
Okay, thanks, Paris. So we're just going to talk to you about the steps that are undertaken during this proactive discover stage of work, and then we'll go into some customer success stories and also some outputs from this engagement. So if we look at our simple 9 steps as part of this overall Discover Plus engagement, we have an initial onboarding session with yourselves to get you familiar with the tool, get you set up, and make sure that you've got the correct set of requirements and surveys particular to your company. A nominated team from your customer side will then complete the survey. So this is going through all technical requirements, functional requirements, and assigning a Moscow rating to those requirements. So what we typically tend to say is must-have is something that you currently have in your applications or system landscape, and it's something that we can't move away from. So if you have it today, mark it as a must-have. We then have our should-haves, would-haves, and then not needed, which obviously different variations on those Moscow ratings. Once you've completed the survey, which as Paris mentioned before, typically takes 8 to 16 hours of your commitment over maybe a period of 2 weeks, we will then analyze that survey and do some analysis on the kind of requirements that you filled out, what the groupings are, what kind of functionality you're looking at. And we will sit down in a joint online workshop and review that with yourselves. And at this stage, if we need to make amendments to any of the Moscow ratings or make any suggestions, they can be done at this stage before we then move on to provide you a solution analysis document. So on the next slide, after I've been through these steps, I'll talk a bit more about what a solution analysis document looks like. But we provide you with that analysis document. And what that then allows us to do is feed into our consultancy layer. So from step 6 onwards, we move into our consultancy layer, and the first part of that are Envision workshops. So a lot of this is built on the Microsoft Catalyst sort of framework and methodology, which is what allows us actually to gain some of this funding with Microsoft. So first set of sessions is an Envision workshop where we will sit down with you, understand your business goals, your objectives, your key drivers, talk about what a gold standard vision might look like for your business. And this will then feed into our next set of workshops, which is our solution assessment sessions. So this is one of the key parts of our solution, our consultancy layer that we offer as part of this package. And this is where we sit down by key value streams. So this is across finance, across operations, manufacturing. We will split the sessions into key value streams and understand what is the current as is state. And then what we are aiming to do is move you to a to be future sort of landscape, very much aimed at aligning that with standard D365 functionality and product. And again, on the next slides, we'll come into some examples on this. We then move into a business value assessment to kind of, understand what the overall benefit of an implementation or a project might be for yourselves. And then this will all then feed into deployment plans, business process library at level 1, level 2, and some high level estimations and a breakdown of license costs that you could expect to see if you were to engage in an implementation. Okay, so those are our 9 steps really of this discover engagement. Okay, so if we move on to the next slide now. Here is one of the outputs that we spoke about previously, our solution analysis document. So this is a very comprehensive document, and what it essentially does is take all of the inputs that you have done on the tool. So requirement by requirement, it will go through, it will display what the Moscow rating was for that requirement. And what's quite nice about this, it provides you an indication of whether that is a fit to standard D365 functionality, and that can be across BC or FSCM. It will tell you where there may be gaps in the sort of technology stack. And if any of those gaps can be covered by an ISV solution, for example, and if they can, in this document, we will provide you with some recommendations of ISV partners that we may have worked with in the past or that may look to plug some of these gaps in functionality. So you get some nice analysis by phase, by sort of Moscow rating, an overall fit, and it will tell you, for example, for your must and should have requirements, FSCM is an 85% fit as an example to your business requirements, and then some implementation estimates. Okay, then moving on. So this again just ties into the comprehensive project pack. So you kind of get some phasing, what if analysis, as Paris mentioned before, we can do MVP, we can do core, we can do big bang. So out the back of this engagement, you'll kind of get a layer of what if analysis if we went for different variations of that, as well as an indication on what the partner and customer resource requirements might look like, and some license and implementation estimates sort of at the low, medium, and high ranges. Okay, so moving on to the next slide then. As well as the sort of project pack and the implementation costs and the analysis around your requirements, what we then do is we overlay a layer of consultancy and business process mapping, because it's all well and good having a list of requirements, but until we build that into a process flow, it's hard for us to get a true understanding of the vision of where we want to move to. So we will sit down with you in this consultancy layer, and during the workshops, we will map out your level 1 and level 2 end-to-end sort of business process flows. And this is just an example of what you can expect at level 1 at the top level. So it's just how the key value streams are interacting with each other. And on the next slide, we'll go into a bit more detail on this. But as you can see from that, we aim to span across the whole business, across finance and operations, and give you a good indication of what your to-be processes could look like. Okay, so if we move on to the next now. Okay, so we're just going to go into some success stories. So how have we delivered this engagement with customers recently, and what kind of work did we do with them? So very recently, we've run two successful proactive engagements with some large global manufacturers. So you can see the names there. We've worked with Associated British Foods in their ingredient stream, and we've also worked with a manufacturer called Gripple who work around like wire tensioning and steel parts. So some very successful engagements. And the key thing to note here was these are very large scale businesses. So they had multiple business units, multiple subsidiaries, each of which may have been using a different ERP system, different systems. They had very different business processes across all of those entities. And when they came to us, they kind of said, well, we're struggling to get traction with the project because each part of the business feels they are very different and they've got unique requirements, and we're having struggle kind of standardizing the processes. So where we were able to come in and help them was we got all of the key value streams together with representation from the business units and the multiple subsidiaries, and we sat down and we did these solution assessment workshops. And throughout those solution assessment workshops, what we quickly came to a conclusion was that actually there is a good 80% fit and 80% standardization across those business units. So in the core processes, manufacturing, warehousing, for example, you could see that the core part of the process was very similar across those businesses. And we highlighted some of the key variations that may need to remain. But over here on the right hand side, I mean, we're not going to go into the detail of the steps, but this is just to give you an idea of at level 2, what kind of detail are we going into. So we will map out the key steps as part of a particular value stream. And in this case, we're looking at manufacturing, sort of manufacturing to distribution. And the key thing here is we touch on some of the key architecture layers. So we look at your business layer, we look at your systems layer, and we look at your technology layer. And what we're really trying to do is build up a full picture. So we're not just looking at D365 and Microsoft products, but we will give you some indication as to which features need to remain off system in the interim. For a gold standard solution, what can we sort of systemize if it is off system? We will look at the touch points to your other systems. So if you have integrations to MES systems, to external quality systems, we will touch on that in the workshop to give you an idea of how we can move to a much more streamlined approach. And also the other nice part of this engagement is we'll also start to talk to you about low code and no code developments using Microsoft Power Platform. So where we can make suggestions on utilizing that to cover some of the gaps, we will also do that. And any remaining sort of gaps, we will suggest some ISVs. So you will get a number of recommendations out of the back of this engagement. Okay, so that just gives you a bit of a feel for kind of the work that we've done so far. And then I'll hand over back to Paris to just give you a bit of a summary.
Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. I think I do have a minute to show you
Just whilst you're loading the demo, Paris, I think we've had a few question and answers coming in the chat, and we can answer those towards the end of your demo.
Yeah, I'll give a quick whistle start. So this is the front screen that everyone would see as they log on to the survey. So on the left-hand side, you have business and project overview. On the right-hand side, you have functional requirements and software licenses. And typically what we do is we capture all the functional and business project overview questions. And this includes like your organization, locations, how many legal entities do you have, your objectives, in essence, why you're doing this project. And the reason we ask this is not just to kind of capture this, but to build a use case and an RFP process might come out the back of it. But also there is some clever stuff that happens in the background. For example, if one of the questions is, have you done an implementation before for Dynamics, and you say yes, or if you say no, in the background, it adds a risk factor and a risk weighting. So if you haven't done it before, then kind of the risk weighting goes up. If you have done it before, the risk weighting goes down. And that has an impact on how we allocate the time and the hours and the timeline of the project. So it is pretty clever, and it has in the background, and we could do some questions around business value assessment, and this kind of helps us provide or get funding from Microsoft, because when we try and get funding from Microsoft, they ask us whether or not we've done a BVA assessment with our customers or a solution assessment. So again, this survey helps us populate those proof of execution forms that we need to hand over to Microsoft. And then the main area here is capturing your functional requirements. So as you can see here, this is kind of a comprehensive one. So it includes your general system, finance, sales, purchasing. And what you can do here, right now, it's broken down by module. What we can do is actually break it down by process flow. So either way, it captures the same information, but it's just displayed in a different way. Again, we can allocate different people to different modules in different areas, so it allows us to fill the survey in a lot quicker. But it's really simple to use, as you can see here. You basically mark down your requirements as a must, should, and could. If the area is not relevant, you can just select not. We do stop you from doing all must and all shoulds, so you do have to read the requirements one by one. And if there's anything that you don't know, you can hover over. So cloud deployment. So cloud deployment enables you to deliver the application as a SaaS hosting model. And you go through this and you fill it in. And you can see there's a lot of questions in here. And don't get me wrong, you don't get like too overwhelmed by the amount of questions. If if there's areas that are relevant to you, for example, if you're just looking at Dynamics as a finance back-end office tool, then we can hone this down to just show finance and inventory and purchase, finance and purchasing, and we can remove travel and expense, plant and machinery, and whatnot. So yeah, really simple tool to use, but gets you a lot of value when you use it, and it helps us as a partner to do so. And I won't go through the licensing stuff, but again, it's just kind of more of a wizard that takes you through each individual area of Dynamics and helps us define what those licenses look like. Again, if you want to go into this in a bit more detail, then more than happy to reach out to me, and then we can work on those. Cool. Questions and answers. Let's have a look.
Awesome. Cool. I think we're clear. So I think I can see a couple of questions in the chat there. So I'll just answer a couple of these questions just very quickly. So I think, David, there's a question from yourself in terms of for the technical work, what inputs do you need to allow for you to create that work? For example, enterprise diagrams or input from technical teams. So I won't go into too much detail on this question, but essentially when you fill out the survey from your end, you can plug all the information in, so you can get your technical team to fill out that part of the survey, and they can talk about existing systems. They can give us an idea of that. They can give us an idea of existing interfaces, and we will take that information out of the survey and plug it into the consultancy workshops. But if you do have enterprise diagrams, or the technical teams want to attend the workshops, then by all means we can sort of accommodate that during those sessions. And then you asked a really good question on some examples of low code, no code approaches. So again, I won't touch on too much detail. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we can run a separate session with you talking about sort of low code and no code and Power Platform. But to give you an idea, a common gap that we see when we talk about supplier onboarding in finance and operations, or finance and supply chain management. So once we've agreed that we're going to trade with a supplier, we create that supplier record on the system. But typically, as you're aware, before engaging with that supplier or committing to trade with that supplier, there are a number of pre-checks that we have to take out, modern day slavery, fraud checks, all of these kind of things, supplier certifications that need to take place before we can even approve that supplier to trade with. So typically there are ways that we can handle that in FSCM, but they're not maybe as streamlined or as flexible as we would like. So this is a typical area where we've done some a Power App and a Power Flow or Power Automate for our clients previously, whereby we built a custom model-driven app in Power Platform to allow flexible workflows and approval processes that flow through to email and Teams, capture all the kind of pre-checks and all the initial supplier information. And once we've approved it then for trading in the Power App, we have a flow that automatically takes that information and creates the supplier record in Dynamics. So that's just a really quick example of approaches that we've done in the past. Okay, but yeah, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely talk to you a bit more about that and give you some more insight. Okay. Are there any more questions from anyone else? I can't see any more in the chat, but feel free to get them in. And if we are running out of time on this session, we're coming towards the end, you can reach out to us and we can pick up those questions separately.
Cool. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And yeah, like I said, reach out to us. We can take the conversation further. Have a good day, everyone.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.